Hi, I'm Vaishali Shah, founder and creative director of Creative ID and Ananya Cards. At Creative ID, we help businesses get noticed by the right people for the right reasons. We create brands that people believe in, online, in print, on social. And at Ananya Cards, we design exclusive stationery for life's most important celebrations, blending personality, culture, and craftsmanship in every detail. Today I'm joined by Hannah from Couture Events Worldwide, leading wedding and event planners, to discuss the myths, challenges, and future of weddings and corporate events in Dubai. You don't want to miss this. Please, Hannah, could you introduce yourself briefly?
Of course. So as you said, my name is Hannah. I am the owner of Couture Events Worldwide. We specialize in all different types of luxury events in the Middle East. Anything from weddings to birthday parties, all the way to working with, big global brands such as Emirates. So thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you. So I've got some questions. We can just jump straight in. Mm-hmm. What's one belief brides or grooms have that's completely unrealistic?
It's really funny because a lot of their beliefs are unrealistic. It's always about managing them and bringing them down to earth. But I would probably say that the one that we really have to educate them on is that they have this very set idea, especially the dreamers, of what their wedding will be like. And being honest, there's always something in every event, whether it's a wedding or corporate event, there's always something that goes wrong. So honestly, the belief that it's going to be planned to perfection and nothing's going to go wrong is definitely not the case. So I think the most important thing is to really make sure that you're hiring an expert or somebody that knows what they're doing and who's a really, really good firefighter, because I can guarantee you that there is definitely something that will happen. Nothing can be planned perfectly because obviously you can't control the weather, you can't control, problems or mistakes that maybe humans make on a day-to-day basis. Like we've had food fall on the floor as the chefs come out of the oven. Like there's always something, and you could never fully plan for it, but really just to make sure that you've got somebody there to help you sort of fix it without really knowing about it. But definitely I would say you have to, as an expectation, just as long as it's perfect for you, that's what's important.
Yes, and I think that's the skill of the planner, to
Absolutely.
Make the couple not aware of what's happening behind the scenes, and
Exactly.
they manage the situation.
Exactly. Oh, we're big solution solvers in couture events. There's always something.
Wonderful, thank you. And why is asking about kids at weddings still so sensitive? Are couples too afraid of offending guests?
This is such a big topic that gets discussed, honestly, because, to answer the question, first of all, I think that as a person that has a child, my child is my identity, right? And I think that families, they're attached to their children, obviously. They want to share experiences with their children. And I think that sometimes it can be very difficult to not take it personally. But what they have to remember is when a couple's planning their wedding, they're not inviting children because they don't like them or they don't want them there. They're just imagining a particular atmosphere or a particular situation. Like, for example, it might be sort of a very young crowd where there's going to be lots of drinks, and maybe they feel like that would be inappropriate for the children. Or it could be that, the rituals of their ceremony are so super important to them and they don't want children crying, which ultimately can happen in a ceremony when there's children there. So I think that it's just such a taboo subject, and it's really difficult because the couples are always scared to have that conversation, right, with their friends or their family members, because they think that it's going to be misinterpreted and taken the wrong way. And I think that there's just such a huge amount of importance placed on the fact that it is their wedding and it should be what they want. I think the message is really important, how that goes out to the families and the friends. But other than that, it's a tough conversation for them to have, for sure.
I find as a stationer at Ananya Cards, I do get couples asking me, how do we put it that this is an adult only event? And I'll say that there are ways through your stationery, through your invitations. Mm-hmm. It's better to be open and upfront and explain it. And there's nice ways to say it. We adore your children, but this is an adult only event, or our venue has said that it's only adult only. There's nice ways to say it, mm-hmm. but I think it's important to say it.
Absolutely. And actually, they're probably going to have more fun if their kids aren't there. You know, they can let their hair down. They can have a really nice time. It's not a personal attack on their kids. It's really just them wanting to create an environment that's the environment that they want for their own wedding.
And have you had any examples where kids have been at weddings and something's gone a little awry?
Oh, let me think. I mean, we've had kids jump in pools. Nothing awful. I think we had one child once during a ceremony that was just hysterically crying, and the mum really wanted to watch the ceremony, so she stayed probably a little bit too long. But you know, we can't tell her to leave ultimately. But no, to be honest, I've got really good experience of working with children. I think that we're very lucky with the type of clients that we get. So they're very well-behaved children.
Lovely. So AI is creeping into every industry. Which part of weddings will it change, and which part should it never touch?
AI is changing the world right now, right? And yeah, of course, in weddings, we're definitely seeing a massive shift. Really for us more in like the planning and the design process at this point. Like, I think that it's making us so much more efficient than what it was before. It's saving us a huge amount of time. So like when it comes to sort of concept designs or ideas, we can kind of throw a few ideas into the system and then it gives us a brand new one out. And that's actually been really helpful when you're trying to do something a little bit different. And then in terms of like planning, RSVPs, like the overall management, AI is so effective and it's so helpful. And I think planners coming into the industry now really should come in with that as their main focus to really push them ahead of, you know, the oldies like me that have been in the industry for so long, because it will make them such better planners actually, and probably more effective as well. But I think that there's obviously a lot in weddings because it is such a personal experience that it shouldn't come and interrupt as well. You know, this is like one of the most important days of somebody's life. There's an emotional attachment to it, and to really have that human element where, you know, like for example, like we sit down with all of our clients, and even though our weddings all look very different, the feeling of them is also very different, because we work with couples from all different nationalities, all different cultures. And for us, the most important thing during their event or their wedding is that when people arrive there, this feels like their wedding. Like I can feel that it's their wedding. And I think it's very difficult for any type of technology to really get that story from the client and to really then translate that into not just a design, but into the emotional feelings that guests have when they're entering that wedding and when they're experiencing that wedding. And that, I hope, never changes.
I completely agree. I love asking my couples lots of questions, because for me, stationery is a personal statement about the couple. So asking the right questions so that I can create something bespoke, no cookie cutter template, and really have that, exactly the expression you said, that I want couples to walk into that room and think, oh, wow. Mm-hmm. Well, first from the invitation, so that sets the tone. Yep. And then they go in, they see all the menus and the signage and everything and think, wow, this is a reflection of that mm-hmm. couple. So very, very true. On the AI side, have you had times where you think it's actually unrealistic? Like, I've had couples come to me with an AI design, but actually it's not realistic in the sense of the print processes that they want, the print techniques, it's not possible. I have the same for when the people look at things at Pinterest boards, which may work beautifully for a wedding of 2 or a style shoot of 2, but if you want 500 guests at your South Asian wedding, it's not possible to do all of those bits. So I find sometimes it can be a little unrealistic and we have to kind of educate. Have you had any similar experiences?
I would say nothing's impossible. However, it's really managing their budget when it comes to the thoughts in their head and then the designs that they're creating versus what they're willing to spend. Because it's very easy to generate an image or to put together something that, you know, we've just built a big ceremony on the beach, for example, and this came from AI actually, and generated from lots of different images. And we really had to be very careful with the design to make sure that it was windproof, because it would have been a big problem because we were on the beach, it's very windy. So I think and then obviously that costs money, right? So I think it's just more about, yes, we can do anything within reason, but you have to generate based on budget. And we've had this experience with a corporate client as well. They wanted to have this really big stage with lots of bulb lights. It was like kind of a circus theme, not circus, maybe more festival, but to manage the overall budget was very difficult because they wanted quite a lot of intricate designs, which really wasn't necessary for their stage, considering it was a corporate and we had a million other things happening in this very big venue. So just to manage the budget.
And have you found that difficult to kind of go back to the client and actually say it's going to cost 2x or something?
I mean, not really. I think that from the moment we start working with clients, we build up very good relationships with them, and it means that the communication is really, really easy to have. And I think that unless you've built up that relationship with them from day one, yes, it's probably be quite difficult to go and be like, listen, you need to chill out because you're getting ahead of yourself. But we can have that conversation with them because of the relationships that we've built, which makes the conversation easier. And ultimately, regardless if it's a hard conversation or not, you have to have it, right? So want to manage their expectations.
Yes, that's important. And Hannah, if you could change one thing about the Dubai wedding and events industry, whether it's a rule, a mindset, or a habit, what would it be and why?
Ooh, look, I think, to be perfectly honest, it's very difficult to answer this one because I love planning in Dubai, really. I think that if I give you all the positives first, it's like anything is possible, number one. No one's ever come to us and we thought, we definitely can't do that. So I think that that's really exciting as a destination, to choose somewhere where you can do whatever you want. I think that in general, Dubai, the government and the tourism boards are very supportive in bringing very large groups to Dubai, which makes our planning process just so much more simpler, and we're very grateful for the support that we get from them. And just in general, we're just a very supportive place. So we recently hired a content creator from the UK, and she's amazing. I'm going to give you her link because everybody that's watching this should really go and have a look at her work, because she's incredible. She sees stuff behind just a phone that is so impressive when she's not an actual photographer or videographer. She really is very special. And we flew her over for a wedding that we did recently, and she flew in. She's trying to get her foot in the door in Dubai, but she's traveling all over Europe now for her weddings, but she's not in the Middle East yet. So she was really excited about working with us. And when she came here, she met lots of people in the industry. She really came to network. She met with planners, and we introduced her to all of our network, and then they introduced her to their network. And then on the wedding, she said, I've never experienced this in Europe. I've never experienced people that really genuinely want to help. They want to introduce you to their contact list. They want to, really give her a head start. And actually, when I came to Dubai, I had that exact same experience. And I think giving you an answer, it's such a special place to plan, honestly. If I could change maybe anything, it would probably be the overall planning times that we're given, because it's a very fast-paced country to work in. But then again, if I was given a choice of having an 18-month wedding versus a 6-month wedding, I would definitely choose a 6-month wedding. But we've planned a wedding in 9 days before. So, it can be very last minute, and that gives us a huge amount of stress, but also keeps us on our toes. So I can't complain too much. That's it. I wouldn't change anything else, really.
Amazing. That's great to hear about Dubai. And I've also experienced that community over competition, and everyone has been welcoming and getting the meetings with planners, with other wedding pros. I totally agree with that. One thing I would want to change, though, is the timing.
Really?
Yeah.
But for you, it's a very intensive what you're doing.
Yes.
In terms of the actual intricate designs, and then if you're doing it and they're very large groups as well,
yes,
right?
Yes.
It's not like Europe where you'd maybe have an average of 50, 60 people at a wedding. Here it's hundreds.
Exactly. I had one early on when I'd moved here through a planner, and I delivered all the stationery the week before, and then on the day of the wedding at 12 o'clock, my phone was beeping, and it was the planner and their assistant saying, we need 12 more menus, place cards in Abu Dhabi by 3 o'clock. Wow. And coming from the UK, where I've delivered everything 2 weeks before, I was like, what's this? This is the day of, it's not even in Dubai.
Yeah.
I managed it. But boy, it was stressful and I wasn't used to it. So then I'm like calling up the printers and I was saying, look, we can't gold foil because there just isn't time, for these new names. But what can we do to make it work and to do that? So I did get under stress, and I did think, gosh, this is just the stationery. The planner will be going through for the food and for everything, the seating, everything. Exactly. So that's I'm a lot better now, and I've got getting used to it. But I think that's the thing that did someone on that day just decide, okay, the 12 of us, we're coming, a couple of families decide. I don't know. I find that as a stationer that does a lot by hand, whether it's the hand tasseling, whether it's the calligraphy or having these embossing blocks made or foil blocks, that takes time. It can't be done in hours. So I find that pressurized. But I also agree, I wouldn't want to do something 18 months before, 6 months, because again, 18 months, the couple could be messaging you all the time. What they want is a design or a theme 18 months ago to what they want. Exactly. So it's maybe a happy compromise, but I don't think I'm going to be able to change it because that is the industry here.
Yeah, we had something very similar actually with a wedding. And obviously we only set up for the confirmed number of guests. And I think we had, it was around 12 as well. And it was painful. Because it's everything, and you know what our weddings look like. Even the chairs are brought in from suppliers. So if we just add in a random table from the hotel, it just looks awful. So add the chairs in that have the delicious covers that look very, very old and dated. Just doesn't fit. So yeah, it's not easy, but you get used to it.
Yes, and I think that's why relationships are so important in our industry, so that you can call somebody and say, look, we need 12 in an hour, we need this, the printer. I think that, again, that community over competition, but having those strong relationships with your suppliers, I think is key. And it goes back to that of actually we're all collaborating, we all want the best for our couple, rather than actually, well, tough, that's your issue.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's important. Yeah, thank you. And what's the biggest mistake businesses make if they're planning corporate events, and how does it affect their brand? So we've talked a lot about weddings, but from the corporate side, is there something different? Is there something that they may be doing that then could dilute their brand? There's something they're not aware of?
It's really interesting, actually. We've been talking about this recently. So we actually predominantly work in corporate events now. We do take on weddings, but we're very selective with who we work with because of the amount of time. An average corporate event for us is about 3 months, right? So it's just a little bit easier, quicker in and out. So we do work with corporate events a lot, and we tend to see the same mistake. And we work with massive global brands, like billion-dollar brands, right? Or multi-million-dollar brands, and they are always thinking about their branding or their message or what their event is, to the purpose of their event, what they're trying to portray, which obviously is super important for them. That needs to be the most important thing that we consider. But they totally forget about the guest experience, which doesn't happen in weddings, because all the people in weddings, they're inviting their family and their friends, so they actually really care about what their family and friends think of their wedding and how they interpret their wedding and what they leave the wedding feeling. Whereas corporate events don't do that. As such, they think about, like, if we have a conference or if we have like a sort of mini exhibition, they don't think about the way that guests enter and then how they would move around the space. And they don't think about where they would place the food and the drinks. It's just somewhere that's convenient. And we say this to all of our clients. It doesn't matter how amazing we make that event look. What one of your guests is going to remember is how you've made them feel on the day. Have you made their day easy? Has it been enjoyable? Have they been able to access the bathrooms easily? Was it well signposted? It's like these really small sort of breadcrumbs, but when you put it all together, it makes a big loaf of bread. And if you don't do those things properly, it really ruins the event, because you can make an event look amazing, but you really need to consider the purpose of your event, but then how that impacts the people that you have invited. And for us, that's so crucial and so important, and something that we really, really try and educate all of the brands that we work with to make sure that it looks great, but the experience for their guests is great.
And would you say that the brands are open to that?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, they're very grateful to have that feedback. And, they'll, for example, when we do a layout and they want to maybe have it laid out slightly differently, because in their head they're thinking, well, but the only space that we can have, like the buffet area, is as guests enter. And we have to then say, listen, if they come in and the first thing they see is a load of food, which maybe they'll arrive when there's being, the food's being exchanged or being moved, or it's just not a nice experience for them. Or if it's a conference, for example, like accessing the seats, or making sure that there's never a lull in music, like just really simple things. Or if someone's invited onto a stage, there has to be music, so that, or some sort of introduction, so you don't lose the tempo, because those things are what people are like, oh, it's a bit awkward. And they're really grateful for that, I think, because they don't think about those things. They think about the bigger picture. They don't think about the smaller picture. So that's our job, to help them. And they're really grateful. Yeah.
And are there kind of 3 non-negotiables, 3 things that a good corporate event needs to have?
I would say a really good design, obviously, but a design not just to make it look good, but like the way that you've laid everything out. And then I would say really good food and drinks, because if you don't feed people when they want to be fed, then they will remember that. And I would say, just in terms of like logistics and timelines, to make sure it's really managed, because generally corporate events are being attended by business people and their time is precious, and you want to make sure that they're not just hanging around, or there's, as soon as they arrive, they're not looked after. It's even more important, I think, for corporate events to just make sure that you stick to your timeline, and that your logistics is second to none.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you so much, Hannah. I really enjoyed our discussion today, talking about weddings and corporate events. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much.